Okay, this is where it's going to get started. I got some posts in the ground there, and back there it's not going to be very big. It's only going to be 24 feet this way, 20 feet wide. At least that's what I got in my head right now. What I'm going to do now is take the tractor and till up some of this dirt here because it's nowhere close to being level. I want to get it somewhat closer, so I'll shave down some of the high spot there, drag it over here to the low spot, and hopefully get it going. Okay, so that's the bulk of it anyways. It is not flat. It is not going to be perfectly flat, and it doesn't need to be flat because I'm not pouring any concrete in there. But what I will be doing is putting my poles in there to make like a pole barn greenhouse, and then I'll bring it up with gravel. I'll probably bring in some more fill dirt, especially around the outside. The dirt that's here is terrible. I think I may have told you that before, and it really is. Grass does grow, but that's just about it, and it's mostly weeds. But I got a layout for the actual posts that go in the ground. Okay, I got my bundle of lumber delivered here. I've got some 10-foot 4x4s here. It's going to be about 17 posts that need to be put in the ground. And some of this is also for some grape trellises. I'm going to do some more of them out there. So this whole bundle here should be enough for the framework, I'm hoping, on the greenhouse, but there's a little bit extras in there. I got a little bit more dirt work to do, and then I need to get some of these posts put in the ground. Okay, so first things first, I got to figure out where I'm going to start this. Now the ground is still a little sloped here and slopes a little bit that way, which is kind of okay. I will have to bring in some fill dirt to level things up because I don't want to dig too much into here. I've already got probably about a foot of difference between that grass right there and right here. So I need to find my starting point, or just establish my starting point, and then measure out some things, start marking some spots here on the ground where I got to dig my 17 poles that are going in here. Now I really don't have anything to square it up with, so I'm just going to pick a spot and kind of eyeball it with the gardens and where I'm going to put the grapevines and stuff, grapevines. So that looks like a good starting point. Yep, I kind of like that. Now I'm doing this a little different than I would anything else. I've watched a whole bunch of videos, different methods of people making different greenhouses, whether they're kit built or stick built or whatever, and some made of scrap, some made of new material. I'm making mine all of new material because if I show you how I'm making mine and I use all scrap, you're probably not going to be able to find the same scraps or reuse the same, you know, recycled, upcycled, whatever parts that I'm going to be able to find. So this will be something that can be made pretty much all from Lowe's. Now, I'm going to do 6-foot centers on my columns. I was going to do 4-foot because I saw a really nice video on a really nice greenhouse using 4-foot centers, but that person used some really big timbers that they cut on their property. They had a sawmill. They had the benefit of doing that. I was going to do 8-foot, but then the math worked out a little differently with the components that I wanted to use, so I opted for 6-foot. Since I'm going 24 feet long, 2 12-foot boards will cover the length of this way. 20-foot 10-footers will cover the length that way. So I'm trying to do as little cutting as possible. So my plan is 6-foot columns, 20 feet apart, a couple extras on each end for the doorway, would be a 4-foot doorway. And then I'm going to put 2 columns in the middle to help support tie beams that are going to go across there. Not really trusses that I'm making. Kind of, they're going to be stick built on site on the actual structure itself. And I'm also going to do 7-foot sidewalls is what I finally decided on. I'm putting 10-foot posts in the ground, so I should be able to get about 3 at my highest point here. They're going to be a little less than 3 over there, but once I bring in fill dirt and bring it all up, they should be about 3. So the panels I'm going to use are the corrugated clear polycarbonate panels, and they are 2 feet wide. A little over 2 feet, but there's a little bit of an overlap, so 2 feet wide is what we're going to call it. So my polycarbonate sides here are going to be 6 feet tall. I'm going to run those horizontal because also those are 12 footers or 8 footers. So I'm going to do 12-foot panels on the side here, 6 foot high, and I'm going to have 1 foot at the bottom there. That's just going to be like siding, something pretty solid for gravel to be up against if it has to. So 7-foot sidewalls. The bottom foot will be solid. The upper 6 feet will be the polycarbonate all the way around it. And then the peak on this roof is going to be about a 33 degree is what I figured out. And like I said, again, this gives me materials that I don't have to do a lot of cutting on. So the idea is the less cutting, the better, the less waste I have on it and everything. I will probably waste some of the columns that are going to be in here because of the slope of the ground, the depth I'm going to sink them, and where I need to finally end up at. So anyways, I'm going to get these columns marked out, and then I got the auger on the back of the tractor here, get to drilling some holes and sinking some posts. Okay, so I got my first crooked hole drilled, and I got to clean out some of the excess that's in there. Now the first pole doesn't really matter where it goes, not exactly, but all the other poles have to be set in relation to this one. So once I get it in there, then I got to relay out my holes, get everything turned right. All right. One of the other nice things about working with smaller lumber like this is it is a lot easier to maneuver. So I got my 7-foot mark right there, and I'm quite a bit higher, so I need to go a little bit deeper. Now before I get too much dirt in there and get it all packed in, I want to attach my board to the side of this so I can twist it if I need to. Because right now I can get it level or plumb, but I need to get it square too. So the board will help me do that. I just got to get some of this dirt out of the way. Then I can attach my board to the side of it. Yes, I'm getting old. This is whooping my butt. First board and first column. Okay, so the next things I got to do is I got to find out where my next posts are going. Now, like I said, this is 24 feet from outside to outside. So my pole, first pole is set in 1.5 inches, and I want my next post to be center line of that 6 foot. So I'm going to measure from the outside there, put my 6 foot mark there, then go ahead and mark my 12-foot mark, which I should have already trimmed this up, made it the proper length. But that'll be, the end of that board will be the center of my next post. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard the saying, measure twice, cut once. It should be the same when you're drilling too. I should have measured twice and drilled once, but instead I measured once, drilled once, and it was wrong. So I had to cut the hole by hand a little bit on the other side to get it to move over some, because you can't re-drill with an auger like this. If you refill the hole, the auger will still want to wander over to the spot of least resistance. So it's, yeah, I just had to do it by hand. Not a big deal. And I did not sink it all the way down to its final depth. It's a little bit high, that's okay. It's a whole lot easier to trim the tops off of them. As long as I get plenty of posts down in the ground there, I think I'll be okay. I will be taking frequent breaks today because it is very hot out here today and not a whole lot of breeze going either, so it's tough to stay cool. Yay. All right, so I only got a couple more posts in, but like I said, it is extremely hot out here today. So good news is it'll cool down this evening. The bad news is it'll probably be raining when it does, but I got some stuff to do when it gets dark out anyways. It's easy to put the one straight wall in, but when you got to do the other side, you need to get them both parallel and lined up 90 degrees square. You got to get it square. So I got a little laser square I've been wanting to try out, but it's got to be kind of dark out when you do it because it is a green laser. It's a little easier to see than the red ones. It's just not in bright sunlight. And that's what it is today. So I'm going to go back and chill out again for a little bit. And we'll come out later on and try it again. All right, this is the end of technically day 2, but I didn't put much effort into the first day because had a little get together out here at the farm, and it was extremely hot. So I put like 3 poles in on the first day and took lots of breaks and then just chilled out. Did come out in the evening when it was dark and do a little laser sighting to square things up and mark out my next posts. Considerably cooler today, a lot cloudier, and definitely more wind, and I hope the microphone's not picking all that up. But got a little bit more work and still took plenty of breaks today too, because it's still hot and you get periods of sunshine out here where it's just blistering. But I'm going to get all my tools picked up. You can see right here I got the one, it would be the south wall is up. I've got the west end wall up, and I've got one column in the center there. It's one of the support columns. There'll be 3 throughout the middle of it, 6 feet apart. Same as the columns on the side walls. 4-foot opening in the middle. The boards you see attached down here at the bottom are just temporary to hold my spacing, make sure everything stays like it is. Because first of all, when you get lumber from Lowe's, if you don't pick it out, you're not going to get the straightest stuff out there. And second of all, it's wet, it's pressure treated, so when it dries, it's going to move, and depending on which side is facing the sun, it may curl. You know, it's going to do all kind of crazy things, but that just holds everything in place. And I need about 19 inches of fill dirt in here. That's how much of a difference in elevation there is between the south wall and the north wall, 20-foot span. And that's after digging out some of this and piling it up over on this side. I still got considerably more dirt to put in there, but I'm gonna get all my tools rounded up, thrown back in the gator here, and put them back in the house and kick back and enjoy a little AC and relax now. I'm tired. All right, everybody, I've had enough fun for one day. Took me a nice long break today. It's been hot. I did get out here pretty early, but I've got pretty much all my top boards up there, all my bottom ones, everything's spaced, leveled, squared-ish. And I've still got about 6 more pieces to put up on that top board there, the top cap. and then I should be able to start doing my rafters. Hopefully that'll be tomorrow. Now I'm gonna get everything cleaned up and go chillax for a while. All right, guys, there's another day on the greenhouse there, and you can see I've started to put up the post for the rafters on there. I got one of the beams going across there, one of the center beams there. There's going to be two more that go in there. The peak is going to be 6'7" and 10 foot wide, 20 foot wide, 10 foot on each side. So that gives me 12 feet from there to there, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to build this thing so that it's not wasting a bunch of material, and I can maximize the pieces of material I'm going to get from a place like Lowe's or such. The whole idea is, a lot of people want to build greenhouses, and they show videos building greenhouses, and there's some really fabulous ones out there. And, you know, they had a friend with a sawmill that, you know, milled the timbers for them. They had a friend that had access to large pieces of glass, so they got all the glass from them. This is something that you can build right out of Lowe's or Home Depot or Menards or whatever you want. It's nothing really fancy, but it's big without going commercial size. It's big for a residential greenhouse anyways. 24 by 20, and you can always extend it. You know, the 20 foot wide, you could make it, you know, however large you want. But this is what I've been working on, and there's another day done, and we'll get some more going here next weekend. Okay, so here's day 6, actual working on it. You know, it's been a lot longer than 6 days, but anyways, I made some progress. Got the ridge beam up there. I've got a couple rafters up right now. These are gonna be double rafters, so I've only got half of a rafter up there technically. Got one for a pattern, and then made some other little blocks to go in different places. Made a couple patterns for those, and it's just too darn hot to stay out here anymore, so I'm going in. All right, here's the end of day 7. I come out here first thing this morning and got to working on the greenhouse because it was kind of cool out. Then when it got really hot, I just had to call it quits for the day, go chill out for a little bit, and then went and inspected the bees. But now with the sky over here like it is a little cooler now, but I don't think it's going to be long, and it's going to be pouring down rain. Anyways, check out the little bit of progress I got done today. Okay, so here it is the next day. We had some pretty heavy thunderstorms roll through here last night, so everything is either mud or dripping wet. The sun's getting ready to peek across the top of the trees there and start hitting the greenhouse and drying things out a little bit. So probably going to wait a little bit. I tried doing a little bit of dirt work here and it's nothing but mud. I got my post cut up for my retaining wall that's going to go in there. It's only going to be about a 24-inch high wall. I'm going to sink the post down about 3 feet. I cut them 5 foot. They were 10-foot 4x6s. I'll turn them the long way so that, you know, the pressure's pushing on the long way anyways. It shouldn't be a whole lot of pressure. I'm moving it out about 6 feet from the edge of the greenhouse, and the dirt will slope a little bit there, but it'll be a little more easy to maintain anyways. And there'll be gravel and all that kind of good stuff, and then a couple rain barrels, one on each side of the greenhouse. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to let things dry out a little bit before I get up on top of the structure and before I do any more dirt work. I don't think that it's just because it's getting hot out here. I think it's because I'm getting old too. But I've got my retaining wall in there, and of course I shorted myself 3 boards. So I got to go get some of those. Another thing I did was when I did my beams across the top here, I took 12 footers and cut them down for the beams, and I had bought 10 footers for that purpose. And so now I shorted myself about 5 or 6 12-foot 2x6s. So I'll have to go get some of those. And then I think another thing I'm going to do is this board right here, that's the bottom. I think I'm going to drop it down a little bit. All I got to do is dig out that high side a little bit and drop it down probably another 5.5 or 6 inches, probably the thickness of another board. And then that will allow me to not put quite as much fill dirt in here and give me just a little bit more room inside the greenhouse. All right, here it is, day 8, I believe it is. It's hard to keep track when it's been such large spans between the days. Anyways, I'm going to get this thing, hopefully all the frame done on it today. I got a lot of work to do, but the nice thing is it is a lot cooler today, and it's going to be partly cloudy. I think a high of 78, and the humidity is like 62%. Winds light and variable, about 4 miles an hour, so it's going to be a great day to get some work done on this thing. Okay, so here it is, day 10, I think it is. Who knows? I've lost track. But anyways, I'm going to try to get the upper part of this thing done, the roof part of it, the purlins, the rafters, or trusses, whatever you want to call them. I want to try to get those done today. Anyways, let's get busy. Okay, so it is fixing to rain. It's getting dark, and it ain't because it's getting late. It's getting ready to pour. Okay, so the rain came and it let up, and then the rain came some more and continued into the night, and even this morning some more rain, and the sky's looking pretty dark, so I'm pretty sure there's going to be even more rain coming. So while there's a quick break, I'm going to go ahead and call this the end of part 1 of the frame part of the greenhouse. And I'll give you a quick look at what I did and what my thoughts were and my plans and everything. And then we'll make another part of it to continue and finish up, hopefully, the greenhouse. Let's take a peek. Okay, so kind of a recap. The greenhouse is 20 feet wide and 24 feet long. It runs east and west. That way when the sun comes up, it gets supposedly the maximum amount of sunlight it can get into the greenhouse. The walls are going to be like 7'3" I have dug into the hillside here because everything here is sloped, so I don't have much of a choice. I don't have any good flat areas here, so water is going to run down this way. I have dug out in here a little bit to get the water to redirect. I've got a lot more digging to do, a lot more dirt to move and everything. The peak of the roof from the center there up is like 6'7" and 5/8", I think. I've got 12-foot boards going down there for my rafters, and I did kind of a double rafter with a spacer in between there, kind of a filler piece in there. Wanted to make it look sort of like a large beam there, so it's a false boxed beam that's up there. And then I've got my purlins running in between there, spaced at 3 feet, which is what they recommend for the poly that I'm going to be putting on there. I'm going to be putting 12-foot panels on the roof. I didn't want to cut them, so that's how I come up with the dimensions I did. I wanted it to be a pretty good size. I didn't want to get one of the little small kit ones, that kit greenhouses you can get, because I wanted it to be big enough to do some things in there. I'd like to start some plants. I would like to propagate maybe some grape cuttings, because eventually I'd probably like to put more grapevines all over the place out here. Hillside is a good place to grow grapes because they just grow on their own. Most of the time when you see vineyards, they're going to be on hillsides anyways. There's a lot of them in the Amish country near me that they've got grape hills covered with grapevines. I got the corner braces on there. My son come out and help me with some of that. I don't know whether I'm going to paint it or not. I don't think I will. I would like to have painted a nice white framework in here, but it's going to take a while for this wood to dry out enough to be painted. You can paint pressure treated wood, but you've got to get it down to a certain moisture content before the paint will actually adhere to it. After that, it'd be fine if it got wet. But I built the whole thing out of pressure treated wood, which is a lot more cost and didn't need to be done, but I figured the humidity is going to be kind of high in there. I overbuilt this thing and I overspent on this thing too, but I don't plan on redoing it anytime in the future. I'd like to keep it just like this, kind of like a hobby greenhouse sort of thing. But I'd like to propagate a bunch of plants in here. I'd like to do a bunch of plant starts in here, maybe take them to the locals farmer market and sell some of those in early spring or mid to late spring, somewhere around there. And I want to do some of my own stuff in here too for my little farm. It'd be nice to recoup a little bit of cost if I can actually make something, grow something in here that I could sell. But this is the greenhouse pretty much. It's mostly made up of 4x4 posts, 2x6s for the beams on there, 2x4s in the fillers in there, 2x4s for my purlins, 2x6s for the baseboard there. On the back wall in here, both sections of this back wall here, this is 8 feet from the corner to the door opening. on both sides there. I plan on doing a potting bench in here. So my wall will be about 3 foot high on this side. There'll be siding on the outside of it, plywood on the inside. I'll have some storage underneath there for pots, maybe bags of garden soil or buckets of compost that I plan on making in my retaining wall slash compost bins out there. And it'll be all poly in here, nice and light, I hope anyways. There is a potential I could put some HDPE or some PEX tubing in the floor in here and a solar collector. These are all ideas that I'm throwing around on the outside so that I can warm the dirt up on the floor, not just with the solar radiation that's going to come in here and heat it, the passive heating, but I thought if I could get a little bit of extra heat down in this floor, especially in the wintertime. You get those really bright days out where when it's not windy, or if you're out of the wind, it's pretty nice. And if I can use some of that energy to heat this floor up a little bit. I don't plan on this being a 365 day a year, 12-month year-round greenhouse, but just something that'll extend my growing season a little bit. And the more heat I can get into this soil underneath here, the little bit I can stretch my growing season out just a little bit longer. All right, I've got some more work to do up here in the gable ends. I've got a couple studs in there at 4 feet apart, which should be adequate enough for the poly that's going to be going across there. And I've got the center post to that first stud there. They're about 2 feet apart. The door opening is 4 foot wide, so I plan on putting ventilation fans up there. I'd like to do some solar fans, 2 of them in there, and draw the wind through from the west end and have it exit out the east end of there, because the prevailing winds west to east should aid in some of that cooling effect in here. You got to have it ventilated, because if you don't, you'll build up so much heat and humidity in there, it'll just kill everything in the greenhouse. I plan on putting doors on here with screen doors of some type, maybe just the screen curtains with the magnetic closures on there, so that I can open both ends of it and have a good breeze going through there. The only power I'm going to have out here will be solar power. I plan on doing a solar drip irrigation system in here. I will put a couple of the IBC totes on both corners on here on the west end, both the north and the south side, so that I can collect the rainwater off the roof to fill those totes, a little bit of overflow, run down to the pond, and hopefully I'll have water in here, enough water for the greenhouse itself. All right, I've got these 3 posts right here in the center of my greenhouse. Now I plan on putting some kind of garden boxes here, tables or something. And then I want to take some cattle panels or some kind of fencing and run it between these posts all the way up to the peak of the roof up there. And I'll plant some plants that will vine in here. I would like to plant some kiwis in here, probably do some peas or green beans, something that's going to climb up these trellises that are going to be in here, only in this center section. I'll have tables on both sides, at both of these ends. The west ends will be the potting benches, so nothing over there. And probably some of my solar power stuff will be stored down on that end. Tables all the way around the outside of it here. And I may even have enough room to go in the middle between the center section and the tables on the outsides to put another table section in here where some potted plants could go on there, or some starts or something, cell trays to start plants in and stuff. So I've got a lot of plans for it, and they constantly change as I'm building this. I come up with a rough idea and said, this is what I'm going to do. I'll sketch it out on paper, and then as I go, like the retaining wall slash compost bins, things change a little bit. The amount of materials I originally planned for this has changed. I think my first purchase of the main bulk of the lumber was about $1,700, which I said is kind of pricey. And I went back to Lowe's a couple more times and made I think like a $500 purchase with some more wood for the compost bins, which I was going to do anyways, just I was going to do them differently. And I went back and bought like another 200 and something one time, and then another 150 something. So 17, 23, I probably got close to $3,000 in it so far, and I don't even have the poly on there. Now the poly is expensive. 12-foot panels, 2 foot wide, are about $38 a piece. You can get a discount on them if you buy them in bulk. And if you've got a Lowe's card, you use that 5%, you can save a little bit on there. It almost covers the taxes. So it is not going to be the cheapest project I've worked on. It's not going to be the most expensive either, but I'm hoping that it'll last a really long time. Anyways, thanks for taking a look at part 1 of the greenhouse build. We'll do some more videos when we do the poly on here and everything, and the siding and the dirt work, and if I decide to put the tubing in the floor. Like I said, the plans change all the time. I'll do some more videos on that, and we'll take a look at each one of those in separate pieces. Thanks for watching Homestead, Ohio. If you could, reach up here and hit this button to check out some of my other videos, and hit the little round button to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.